So this is Pearl Davis's song about the Jews. She doesn't say it, but it's about the Jews. I don't know why she released a song about the Jews. Maybe it's because she met like Nick Fuentes and they're getting close or whatever. And Nick Fuentes does react to the song. We're gonna watch it afterward. Let's listen. Actually, I think it might be better to use this one because then it goes straight into the Nick Fuentes reaction. Watch.
Why can't we talk about them without getting kicked off of YouTube? Now, I'm not saying...
By the way, you can talk about the Jews without getting kicked off of YouTube. It's just the things that you want to say about the Jews is kill them all! You know, so YouTube having advertisers and wanting to not contribute to synagogue shootings aren't going to allow you to say that specific type of stuff about the Jews.
Now, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I kind of want to know why.
Because he killed 20 million people.
Now there's all these conspiracy theories, and the more they talk, I think maybe they're right. But I can't even listen to the convo. I can't even have the conversation without getting canceled by the left and the right.
I mean, it's not just that Pearl likes to have conversation. She likes to take a really stupid position. And I think she's doing this now with the Jews. She likes to take a really stupid position, say it without having thought through what she's saying at all. And then people will be like, wow, Pearl, that's really stupid. And then she'll be like, ha, I triggered everyone. Here's a great example. She said that women shouldn't be able to vote. Now, I don't understand how a woman could say, I don't believe women should participate in the democratic process, but also you should listen to what me, a woman, has to say, right? Already pretty silly. But then when asked about well, why, she brought up the draft. And so her justification for this was men have to serve in the draft if there's a war, but women don't necessarily have to. And therefore it's unfair. Men have earned the right to vote. Women haven't. And so when somebody responded to her, isn't your problem more with the draft than women voting? And couldn't you just get rid of the draft? She broke down. She didn't know what to say. She said step one. She got the step one. She was like, oh, women not voting? That'll get attention. That'll get me a lot of views on my YouTube short. That'll get me a lot of views on my Twitter account. I'll say that. And then when given the slightest amount of pushback, she crumbles. She falls apart. She doesn't think about the things she says. But if the thing she says is jolting or grabs people or thinks, will grab attention, then she'll say it and without putting any thought into it. As long as it can, message to a certain male audience.
Why can't we talk about them without getting kicked off of YouTube? Now really, I'm not trying to be rude, but why can't we talk about the I didn't say it.
Anyway, Pearl dropped the track. She dropped a diss track on the Jews. Why can't we talk about them
without getting kicked off of YouTube? Now, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy,
bro? Oh, God.
But I kind of want to know why.
Oh, come on now.
Now there's...
Pearl, you're making a big mistake. She has no chill, dude. She meets me 5 months ago. Now this meets Nick Fuentes 5 months later. Why is Hitler bad? She sings acoustic track. Why is Hitler bad? Bro, chill. Bro, chill. We love you, Pearl. You're going to get yourself canceled. They can't help it. I tell people.
Even Nick Fuentes needs her to tell her to chill. He contributes nothing, man. I've never met a commentator with so large of an audience that has so little to say. You know, he has 2 million subscribers on YouTube. 2 million people. They listen to what she had to say. They click that little button. People fucking believe that shit? Believable, man. Personally, I think the Jews are okay. So does Nick Fuentes think Hitler wasn't bad? Yes. 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 I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yes. Yeah, Hitler was pretty bad, but Nick Fuentes doesn't agree. What's this? The female Andrew Tate, Pearl Davis, on why she thinks women shouldn't vote.
Piers Morgan says, so Pearl Davis has racked up a legion of online followers and plenty of breathless newspaper coverage by sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate.
Now, I only saw the one time someone confronted her on this and she didn't have a response. So I wonder how it'll go on Piers Morgan. I know Piers Morgan's going to have Jackson Hinkle on. So it seems Piers Morgan has decided, like, look, a lot of people hate me, so I need to find people that hate, like, people that are more hateable than me, so I look better in comparison. That seems to be the Piers Morgan strategy at the moment.
So she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people.
Can we put this in reverse? Like, what about men and their STD rates? Or how many people men sleep with? Don't men have a higher body count rate on average than women? Or am I mistaken?
95% of women.
Okay, let's look. Who has a higher body count rate? Men versus men and women have the same average IQ. No, I didn't say. I said about IQ. I said body count. The average number of sexual partners for men and women in the United States is 7.2. Is it the same amongst men and women? Louisiana residents reported 15.7 sexual partners. Well, you're born in Louisiana, you can't vote. You're whoring around too much. You're too floozy. Utah, you're gonna lead the country with only 2. What is silly? Why can't I vote? You were just slanging too much dick. I'm sorry. Ah, damn. Understood.
Women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
OK, well, Pearl joins me now alongside political journalist Ava Santini, who was nodding furiously along there to everything she heard. Right, Pearl, you've be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about. But overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
OK, look, you're talking about women predominantly.
We're going to have a fantastic level. I mean, I don't know if it would be fantastic. But, man, the ratio of pimps to non-pimps in society is going to drastically go up over the next 20 years.
Which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive. Why would you want to remove, just from yourself, the right to vote?
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. If you look it up.
At the time.
It's not true. I don't know what he's. I don't know what he. I know what she's talking about.
At the time.
Oh, at the time. Okay, now. Okay, well, who cares? We have the right to vote now.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say. But, you know, I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
What's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military.
By the way, why should I care if, okay, some people thought that women getting the right to vote was the start of the breakdown of the family. Okay, that's what some people thought. Other people thought that it was the start of the political enfranchisement of women and the first step forward to the gaining of more rights for women and their ability to, you know, have a say in how the country is governed as equal citizens under the law, which is what I think the majority of people thought.
Years later.
What's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run. So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family. I mean, I don't think it's good for a family.
By the way, the logic she's using is the same logic that allowed people to just deny the right to tons of people in society to not vote and just keep it with landowners. And basically the idea was landowners should be the only ones to vote because they're the only ones that contribute. But what that meant is that it was only the ultra wealthy that got the vote, and therefore the extremely poor and working class were disenfranchised. So why not take her vote one step further and just say only extremely rich and successful businessmen or people who are at the upper echelons of society, wealthy, paying exorbitant amounts of taxes because of their wealth, they should be the ones to vote. And everybody else should be at their whims. We basically create a technocracy.
Family to have two votes.
Ava, your mouth seems to have dropped about
No, do you know what it's sort of
3 feet.
like?
I know.
No, it's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, you know, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
Which stats?
But they just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean, at
Allegedly?
The time, well, at
What
the
do you
time
mean allegedly?
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. That's
actually,
incorrect. The first
okay,
female
what year are we
property. The
talking
first
about?
female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that will be inherited property.
The first female. The first.
I really hope they didn't match Pearl Davis in IQ in choosing the other guest to come on with her. I really hope they didn't. I hope they didn't choose this like a Pokemon battle, like trying to pick people of a similar level.
Female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made.
It wasn't.
No, yes, it was.
Self-made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never inherited land.
Yes, she did not
and what
inherit
law permitted that?
What?
What law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were influential in
let's
history.
let's get on to the vote. So what I don't understand is, you know, a part of your message. I've researched you today. And hang on a minute.
Okay.
You know, your big push is that you care about men and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
Well, I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't
Care
made
about
the
women
point
too,
yet.
okay.
Because of feminism. Okay. What I wonder is when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote. How is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives. They have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around. They don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal. So again, men.
I mean, saying that women are not equal to men because of their lack of contributions, their supposed lack of contribution. Maybe that might have to do with the fact that we educational resources, cultural standards on like what type of field should go into. Women should be nurses, maybe not so much scientists, right? Maybe these cultural standards, a ton of things that could have contributed to these gaps. It could also be, for example, physical restraints, like coal miners are probably going to be dominated by men because they have more physical ability to do that job. But that doesn't mean that necessarily women shouldn't be able to do jobs like engineering or designing building, architecture, stuff like that. Her solution to this, to help men, is to take women's right to vote away. How does that actually help men? That's a good question. I'm really hoping this. God, I hope this person.
And do all of
most
that.
feminists are
Well,
saying.
then, okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're open, they're hiring because
Why is that how we determine who votes and who doesn't? Just who does the hard jobs? Well, if that's the case, okay, every TikToker should not be able to have a vote. They should not only be able to have a say. And we just like let the fucking garbage men run society. What is it about running an oil rig that makes them particularly useful in being the bastions of civilization that get to dictate what everyone does? And I'm not trying to degrade them to say people on oil rigs are stupid, but people on oil rigs are just one small section of society. If I was to go up to somebody on an oil rig and I was like, hey, how should we manage the financial crisis of 2008? A lot of them are not going to know the answer to that because their job and what they've studied is how to run an oil rig, not how to recover from the housing crisis. Why is it that just because their job is physically difficult, that makes them necessarily the most attuned to society's needs?
I don't equate I don't think men or women are equal until we do the equal work. So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber. Go be an electrician. Go be on the front lines of the military. And then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely not. You said you were volleyball.
Wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think
But
that
I don't have more strength. I don't have more strength than the average man.
I'm not going to take your right away to do it.
I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be equal.
But you don't want. You want.
Again, like this, it just makes no sense. Plumbers, they're the ones that know how to manage the economy. And I'm not saying that they're dumb. I'm just saying that if you only take the if you only are choosing the people who do the most physically taxing jobs to run society, it doesn't make sense. Because somebody, for example, let's say somebody's a mathematician. Maybe a mathematician or an economist, they might have a better acumen in trying to fix the financial crisis than somebody who's a ditch digger. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't have anything to contribute, because somebody who works on an oil rig might be able to contribute something when it comes to, hey, how do we have proper regulations when it comes to energy production? What type of regulation should be involved for people who work in the maritime industry or people who work in this type of work? They could have other ways to contribute depending on their personal knowledge. But this doesn't make any sense, man. If it was just whoever, if it's physically taxing, therefore they get to contribute, then we should just make like a list of 5 jobs that are like the most difficult, like garbage men, like, I don't know, plumbers or whatever, and they get to do it. Not all men, just those ones. So if you haven't served in the military, shouldn't be able to vote. What is this, fucking Starship Troopers?
Divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
You get beaten, you got pop, 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 and then you got to get back in bed. You can't leave. Very sorry. It's fucking silly, man. Like this is such an easy follow question. What happens when like a woman gets beaten by her husband? Well, you can arrest him, okay, but then he gets out of prison. Are they still married? Well, yeah. And can she remarry? Well, no.
That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
The idea that you get married and then you can't leave marriage, that ruins marriage, because then what happens is if you get into a bad marriage, your life is ruined until you die.
When there's a 50% divorce rate and the average marriage
why is that all
8
down to
years.
the women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why feminists
you asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in for better or for worse, for richer or for poor.
Well, this doesn't make any sense. If you want to be in a marriage where if your husband beats you, you have to stay in it, you can make that personal commitment that no matter what happens, I'll stay with him. I don't care how much he pistol whips my pussy. Like, that's your business, right? You do that, that's you. But don't force that on the rest of us if we want to get married and then have a divorce. That's your prerogative. Don't force that on everybody else.
In sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married?
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin. And so if you want to preserve that...
Damn, slut shaming on national television.
sanctity of marriage.
I
When,
think,
I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
Sorry, that was. I'm sorry. Did you see Piers Morgan's face? Did you see his face? Did you see his face?
Marriage. When, I just think that you're upholding standards that you.
Dude, he's having a blast, dog. Okay, this was brilliant. I'm so happy Pearl came on. Oh God. Dude, Piers Morgan. Even I'm not a fan of Piers Morgan, but God, I'm a fan of this show.
You don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah,
So then you can't get married. You're ruined forever. You're soiled product, I guess. This is how it works under the paradigm.
I don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think.
Hang on. Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely. And
so she's perfectly entitled to her views.
Yeah, but you can't.
You might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
Isn't she
them.
exercising her right as a... Are you a feminist?
No, I am not.
Really?
No, I wouldn't. Don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't, I would love for you. There is an oil rig hiring. There is an engineer.
Can you shut the fuck up about oil rigs? I'm sorry. Like, oil rig labor is as difficult, but now she's making it sound like it's like at the trenches of the Somme, man. Like in the oil rig, everyone's like constantly on fire. They're falling off the sides, right? Like what? She's making it sound like it was like Iwo Jima, man.
I would actually love to see Ava Santana on an oil rig.
Seriously. There is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists. Go do it. And me, I'm
doing the same job that I'm doing right now.
When you find the man you
But she's so fucking stupid.
want to get married to, are you saying you...
I would say Pearl Davis, like, honestly, if she wanted to really fight against feminism, she should go on TV and say, I don't think women should vote. Why? Well, look at me. I'm a woman, and look how I behave. Should we really be able to vote? That would be the best argument she could possibly make.
You will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life.
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave.
Okay, here's the question. Let's say your husband gets addicted to crack. He loses his job, gets depressed, gets addicted to crap. He starts selling all your stuff, starts digging out copper wire out of your front yard, selling it. He's angry because he's lost all the crack money, starts taking your jewelry, taking your property, right? Ruining your reputation. You're going to stick with him through all of that? Through sickness and in health. What if he starts taking it out on you physically? Sickness and in health. What stops that from becoming a murder situation? There has to be some way for somebody in those types of circumstances to pull out.
Marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
Ava, I've got to say...
Is it best for the kids to always keep your marriage together? I don't think that's necessarily true. I would say that that two-parent households, or households where there's more than one parental figure, are the households that seem to produce the better outcomes. But that doesn't mean that if one of those parents ends up being incredibly abusive or incredibly messed up, or it just doesn't work, and then there's a ton of tension in the household. I think the type of impressions you can make on a child through the abuse of a wife, or the abuse of a husband, or through that type of toxic relationship can also do an immense damage to a child that is usually, like in this conversation, not taken into account.
It's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate, where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think there'll be a lot of people, especially older generation women perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
Well, I mean, I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children in divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand...
I'd like to say...
And she shut the fuck up and let the other person talk. She got her one IQ. She's already advertised her one IQ to the whole world. We get it. Let the other person.
before the
understand.
1920s,
Do you know what I mean?
women could speak openly. This idea that like women couldn't talk the last 500 years, there have been women
I know,
throughout
but the
history
American state
that
education
have been,
system has
that
failed before, and it's failing now.
there have been women throughout history that have read, written, and been very
Did
influential
she take her own advice and shut the fuck up as a woman and let the other person who wants to talk?
in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know what
believe
what
it.
I don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, you know, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have
Are they
abortions,
fat?
you say that
Are
they
they
have
fat?
STDs. You know,
I mean, the question is, are they fat? Yes
Why-
or no?
why pass
The
that kind
average
of
American
judgment?
woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest.
That's not true. It depends on the body size. Okay, there is an obesity problem in the United States, but just because a woman is 170 pounds doesn't necessarily make her fat. It depends on their body type.
we now celebrate more.
Like if somebody's 6'5", right, 170 pounds is going to be a lot more realistic than if somebody's 5'2".
obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in
And
that.
this is the problem. This is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive?
Well,
Like, why did Piers Morgan not push back more on the idea that women can't vote? Like, I feel like Piers Morgan just kind of like just sat back and let the chaos happen, huh?
It's nonsense.
Not a very active host, even though, I mean, my main critique of Piers Morgan usually is that he interrupts too much. But the one time he should be interrupting, he's not.
We're not talking about morbidly obese. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee.
wasn't.
I mean, like, I don't know what to say. This is the thing, women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true. Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively.
And she insulted me first. They always do.
I'm going to have to objectively end the debate, but it was an interesting conversation. I think we should get you two back together as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much, Pearl. Thank you, Ava.
Oh, God. Y'all are dumber for having listened to that.